don't really appreciate how divided Israel is. This is about 2020 when you have like 1 million people in Tel Aviv calling for the resignation, the impeachment, the jailing of Prime Minister Netanyahu. Because Netanyahu, like most Israeli politicians, is very corrupt. Okay? And to avoid going to jail, Netanyahu proposed changing the judiciary, changing the laws. And so there's these massive protests against Netanyahu. And at this point in Israel, it seemed as though Netanyahu was going to fall from power and go to jail for the rest of his life. But then, of course, October 7th happened. Okay? October 7th happened. And then Israel is now in permanent war that gives him emergency powers. Okay? All right. To give you a sense of how divided Israel is, let's look at the Knesset, which is a parliament. Guys, this is a lot of political parties. And as you can see, none of them are dominant. Okay? The biggest, Likud, which is Netanyahu party, it has about 30 members. But it cannot rule by itself, therefore it has to join with other political parties. Okay? It has to be a coalition. But you look at its enemies. Well, its enemies also have a lot. So it seems as though Israel is an extremely divided society, and it is. Okay? People don't really appreciate this. You know, a lot of people talk about a Jewish global conspiracy. What people don't really understand is the Jewish people have never, ever gotten along. So you go back to the time of Jesus, and there were like 3 major factions in Jerusalem. They were the Sadducees, there were the Pharisees, and the Essenes. They all hated each other. In the year 70, the Romans sent a huge army to destroy Jerusalem. Okay? And you would think at this time, the people in Jerusalem would get together and unite and defend Jerusalem because otherwise they'd all be killed. Well, they didn't get together, okay? And the Romans destroyed Jerusalem and burned down their second temple and massacred a lot of Jews. So the Jews have always had this problem where they're extremely creative and intellectual, but that just leads to massive infighting. Okay? All right. So these are the leaders of the different political parties of Israel. And again, I hate to say this, but like they really hate each other. It's not, you know, like a show. They generally hate each other. And that's why Israel has been politically been so dysfunctional these past few decades. Okay? All right. So now I want to discuss where the major conflict in Israel is. Okay, so I would say there's like the 2 major conflicts is represented by Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. These are 2 cities in Israel, and they are the 2 major cities of Israel, and they represent 2 different centers of gravity, 2 different visions for Israel. Tel Aviv is democratic. Jerusalem is a theocracy, meaning it's religious. Okay? Tel Aviv is open, meaning it actually has a lot of homosexuals, right? And you can imagine people in Jerusalem aren't happy about this, so they're very conservative. Okay. Okay, cosmopolitan tradition. All right, so these are 2 vastly different visions for Israel, where Tel Aviv is this open, democratic, modern, progressive city. Lots of homosexuals, lots of open ideas, very secular, very outward-looking, very Western. Jerusalem is the complete opposite, okay? Very religious, very conservative. And they hate each other. And the fact that Tel Aviv is getting destroyed right now in this war, people in Jerusalem are actually okay with this, okay? They're not like, oh my God, they're killing Israel. No. Tel Aviv is the great Satan. Let's just destroy it so that we can build a theocracy. Okay, all right. So let's look closely at where they disagree, okay? So Israel is the kingdom of David. Okay? But Tel Aviv and Jerusalem perceive David differently. Okay? So for people in Tel Aviv, David was the king when Israel was at the height of its glory, when it was an open, cosmopolitan, creative, innovative empire. And that's what they want Israel to be. The people in Jerusalem see David as a different person. They see David as primarily a poet-prophet. And they see David as the exemplar, as the favorite of God, because he redeemed himself and repented himself in the eyes of God, okay? So redemption and repentance, all right? And what they focus on is a story of David, where David is king, and one day he wakes up and finds he's in love with Bathsheba. And so he basically has sex with Bathsheba. Bathsheba gets pregnant, and that's a problem because Bathsheba is married to someone else, Uriah the Hittite. So what does David do? David has him killed, okay? And David can do this because he's king. But God finds out and sends the prophet Nathan to tell David, you've sinned. And at first, David refuses to admit that he's in the wrong. But then his child with Bathsheba dies. And David falls into tremendous grief. And every day he's praying to God for forgiveness. He's asking for redemption. He is repenting. And God forgives him. And in this process, not only does David become a better person, but he becomes united with God. Because now they're best friends. Now they talk every day. And that's what the vision that the people in Jerusalem have for Israel. A nation that engages in redemption and repentance. They don't care about this war. They don't care about Iran. They don't care about the United States. They don't care about the Greater Israel Project. They care about the Jews finding God again and being loyal to God. And that is what will bring peace to the world, okay? That is how they see the world. This is how they perceive things. They believe that in every person there's a divine soul, okay, that comes from God. But it is trapped in the animal soul, okay? So Tel Aviv is the animal soul. And this is the divine soul. All right? So what the animal soul is, you seek material comfort. You want to have sex. You want to get drunk. You want to party. You want to drive a Ferrari, okay? This is all animal. But inside of you is the divine soul that only seeks to be with God, okay? And so we are constantly in a struggle between the animal soul and the divine soul. And so from their perspective, Tel Aviv represents the animal soul of Israel. Jerusalem represents the divine soul of Israel. So it's okay if the Iranians destroy Tel Aviv. Good. Also, they recognize that war is good because if people really want to find God again, they need to suffer. They need to lose everything before they recognize the glory of God, okay? So think of the book of Job. When Job is a character in the Bible who is very wealthy. And so God decides, you know what? Maybe he's only faithful to me because he's very wealthy. So Job loses everything, and this heightens his faith in God. Okay? So that's the vision that these crazy religious zealots have in Jerusalem, which is like, let's destroy Israel so that we can rediscover our love for God, okay? The destruction of Israel will lead to the redemption and repentance of the Israeli people, and therefore peace in this world. The Messiah will finally come. That's why the rabbi was constantly talking about on Thursday the Messiah will come because he feels it's so close. There's so much destruction. There's so much war. So the Messiah must come because now the Jews recognize that only God can save them. Therefore, when you will it, when you pray for the Messiah, when you really want in your heart, that's when the Messiah will come. Okay? But you need to create the conditions when people really want the Messiah. Okay? So that's a civil conflict going on in Israel. And again, these people in Jerusalem, these fanatics, they don't really care if the world is destroyed, because this world is fake anyway. Who cares? What matters is the divine soul.